Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session, and thank you that you are here. Basically, it's the last day of the week for many of you, the end of the day, and I hope that will be good finish to the whole week and to the day. Today as well. So today's session is international research collaboration in the age of AI with Jim Casey, that you can see already featured as a presenter. And Marjo Michon, who hopefully will be able to join us in a session as well. So for everyone joining us for the very first time, this event is organized by AIRON. AIRON stands for AI in Research Operation Network, and we are basically a community of professionals supporting research. So there's a lot of job titles, not specific, not research management, not just research libraries, a lot of people. We are all interested on how to use AI. This is our safe space to share questions, share user cases, our experiences, participate in discussions. And what is special about us, that it's global community. So for everyone joining us for very first time, please use the chat. And if you're working on a really thrilling solution, please say hi to everyone, say what you are doing and what you are looking for. So the microphones and cameras are on for everyone listening to us, and especially using the mobile phone. I know that's sometimes very quickly, but please make sure to turn the mic off, because the background noises are very annoying. And I think if you scroll it up in a chat to very first text, there is all information you needed. The session is recorded. You will be able to subscribe to newsletter. With newsletter, you get the Q&A and the longer version. There is a link to the LinkedIn community, which will have a smaller version of this event today. And as well, we now have event calendar as well. So from now on, you will be very easy view this event and select the event you would like to participate in. I think today's session is very important. Collaborations, partnerships are very difficult. If we apply the international lens, it's getting even more difficult because it's not just institutional cultures and rules, but also the rules from different funders, different countries. And of course, now AI offers a lot of opportunities and challenges. And I think it's challenging us, people creating this international collaboration, especially how we are going to manage this work forward, what is changing in our day-to-day praxis. Okay, I'm very thrilled for this session already. I'm passing over to Jim. Jim, if you would like to introduce yourself and kind of let us know what we can learn today, that would be great. And I think it will be more than one or two things that we can take out of this session for our daily practice.
Well, thank you very much, Anna, for this introduction on this Friday afternoon, at least in Europe and places to the east of San Antonio, Texas, where I am located. It's still Friday morning here. And I hope Marjo can get on eventually during this session because she has an excellent background and has some great insights to share with the group also. I've been in the field 30 years plus, both as a lawyer and as a research manager. So actually my career started right before the dawn of the internet age. So I have experience in the true old school way of how higher education research worked all the way through the internet era, through the electronic submissions of grants and reports and financial information, and now into the next stage, which is of fast computing and artificial intelligence. And at the outset, what I'd say is that this session is not about specific platforms or specific tools that institutions may use. Partially because there's many options out there. Secondly, there are, many, institutions are doing things differently. And so we can't, I don't want to limit us really by tools per se, but more of the general skills, management and otherwise that would be excellent for you in the coming months and years. Can you advance the next slide, Anna? Thank you. Okay. The big picture is really putting AI into the context of international research. International research collaboration and the management of has been around a long time. Even before I became a research manager and administrator, there were international collaboration going on. And so I've always been of the opinion, and still, that although the technology and the tools and the software platforms may change, there are skills that are common across these three phases in the world of international research. And when I say the three phases, of course, I mean the pre-internet, the internet, and now the post-internet/AI phase. And as you'll see on this slide, that AI is already proven useful in barely 2 years, I guess, or 3 years. Very useful in both what we call pre-award and post-award grant administration. So this, certainly it's very commonly used to find collaborators and funding opportunities, which has always been an issue, even in the internet era when the first large-scale grant opportunities were posted on the internet, both here in the United States and in Europe, for instance. So having those opportunities in the internet era did lead to greater efficiency with your pre-award tasks and responsibilities. And one of the common discussions I hear, which is the same where I teach at CUNY in New York City, in their master's program, is that faculty always have they're very stressed. Faculty and researchers have a lot to do. They have, not only do they have to write grants, but most often they're teaching. Most of them have service responsibilities in their research institute or on campus, or they have community responsibilities depending on the type of institution they are in. So the discussion always sometimes boils down to, for instance, pre-award, finding collaborators, finding grants. Can't the central office do it because we're paying overhead? Those offices run off overhead. And that is a never-ending discussion, both here in the United States and beyond. But there has been greater opportunities. And, certainly AI has accelerated that efficiency in finding greater opportunities. And more recently in the last year, if you belong to a professional association, you will know that areas in post-award, which is the management, the financial accounting, evaluation of project objectives, and the auditing functions are now being assisted by AI in these various platforms. And, that's a great advance also. But I would caution everybody to, and I tell this to my students where I teach at CUNY, that, the tools are great. The tools are going to change every 4 to 6 months, probably, if not quicker. But regardless of the tool, there are certain what I call timeless attributes of communication and trust and a collegial spirit that are common across all these phases that we've seen in research management and administration. So although you may have tools such as ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot or others that help you to do certain responsibilities, the reality is that you still need to build your what I call the human or humanity aspects of being effective research managers and administrators. That I believe is never going to change, and depending which part of the planet you are from today, you're probably aware that there are resistance to AI and data centers here in the United States for a variety of reasons. And I don't know how that's going to impact everything because that is still an ongoing feature. But I think in prior AIRON events, you probably heard about the fears of losing positions in the field and larger scale job losses in the greater economy. I'm not going to talk about those because it's so speculative at this point. But it is important, as we say in areas of data protection and privacy, that these tools are good, but they can't replace human intelligence. They should help us make better decisions, but not replace the human decision-making aspect completely. And I'm sure that's a discussion you are having at your universities or your colleges or your research institutes or whatever entity you are working in at the present time. And I don't think any of that's going away anytime soon. Now, at the bottom of the slide, you'll see one of my favorite, or partially one of my favorite phrases I've said for over 30 years, which is find reasons to say yes, not reasons to say no. This is something I reinforce with all my students in our program at CUNY. And what that means is there may be, hard and fast legal reasons why you have to say no, but you want to be creative to try and say yes without obviously breaking any law or statute or regulation. And so what you see at the bottom of this slide are some of the reasons that make it difficult to get to yes in terms of funding projects for your faculty or your researchers. Many of these clauses that you see at the bottom of this page are in various forms of legal contracts, which your Office of General Counsel or your Research Administration Office handles, depending on how your structure is set up. But these areas are some of the areas we like to say basically provide stumbling blocks. They should not be complete deal breakers if there is a willingness to compromise on both sides. I would say from the American standpoint, if you work in a state university here in America, there is less negotiating position for those state universities because they're bound by more strict state laws and regulations. And I have that experience having both worked in the Texas and Florida state systems where there are state rules and regulations governing liability, indemnification, conflict of laws, data protection, and privacy and IP. Private universities have more leeway, shall I say, because while they may answer to a board of trustees, most of those boards do not provide the heavy oversight that the public legislatures do that govern and the governor that are reporting upward from the public universities. So, and then of course, with at least from the American standpoint, issues with dealing with certain foreign countries such as China and North Korea, Iran, areas that our State Department has concerns about, but also our state governments have concerns about, that may provide more of a break or a slowdown in getting contracts to yes. So really at this point, AI hasn't solved the problem of the problematic areas in contracts. AI has made good inroads in helping to evaluate and review contracts quicker. But there are some areas of contracts, like I say, depending on your environment, that AI cannot solve at this point. And and you may know if you're outside the United States that we have because the federal government does not have an overarching data protection AI statute at this point in time. The states have been rushing in to fill the gap over the last 3 to 4 years. And now finally, there are a couple bills in Congress to finally get a federal law that would preempt all state law. But of course, the problem with that is for the Republicans in the US Congress, where states' rights have always been a guiding principle, how can you say you're for states' rights if you are pushing for a federal statute that completely governs AI? So that's the quandary we have here in the United States. I don't know what the answer is going to be. We'll see what the following months through the end of this year happen. But if anything, whether you're in Europe or in Asia or in the United States, this just points out the need to be flexible in your education and flexible to learn new things at all times. So next slide, please. Okay, thank you, Anna. This is more, some of these bullet points I've already mentioned in various ways. But there are a couple things here I want to point out among all of the important items here is the idea that, like before AI, in the regular internet age, or even before that, we were always talking about balancing facilitation against compliance. Because, at the end of the day, research money is other people's money. Okay? Unless the money is coming from direct student tuition fees, short of that, if you got gifts to your university, if you have taxpayer money, which is coming from taxes through a state university, or even the US government, that's other people's money. NSF, that's other people's money. It's my money. I mean, I'm a US taxpayer. Same with NIH, same with Department of Defense, Department of Energy. And so when it's other people's money, you have the stewardship responsibility. And while we talk about compliance, and there is a role for compliance, I've always been consistent with my motto of finding reasons to say yes and not no, is to not be overly compliance focused so that the faculty lose excitement to pursue outside funding. I've known several people that have lost their jobs because they've said no all the time and not yes. But I learned early in my career it should be the other way around. Now, as a lawyer, I will never advocate breaking a law or statute or regulation or a state policy. That's not what I'm saying here. But in those areas where creativity is necessary, that is still a skill that we need in research management and administration, even with the availability of AI. The other point I want to make on the big picture down at the bottom is the need for champions and ambassadors. Now, I started, I guess you'd say, expanding into the areas of data protection and privacy 8 years ago, even before the GDPR came into effect in Europe, because a lot of lawyers in America were were going to have to know the GDPR to do work for their Europe-based clients. And one of the things I learned very early on in those years, 2017, 2018, was that every company, every university, every research institute, whatever entity you work for, small, medium enterprise, you should have champions and ambassadors for data protection by design, for privacy by design, and for artificial intelligence. So these are individuals that really take these principles to heart and help spread the word in their entities of how important, how important responsible AI is, how important it is to embed data protection by design principles from the beginning, or the same with privacy. And now, here in the United States, in the last couple of years, we've had research security. And research security is a developing subfield of the older field called research compliance, which has to do with protecting university IP, protecting university research. There have been laws and an executive order at the U.S. government level requiring American universities to provide stronger oversight and training in the area of research security, and as well as make some collaborations with our colleagues overseas a bit harder. Now, those areas are not eliminated, or the requirements are not eliminated by AI anyway. Once again, AI may be a tool to help you craft your policies in these areas. It may be useful for you to pose hypotheticals as you develop a research security policy, or you're developing a data protection or privacy policy. It's a good tool to use. But at the end of the day, like everything else, people need to make the final decisions and the final approvals. And I would mention, while I'm just talking about it, the area of education with AI is a big deal now too, because we have a master's program in research administration at CUNY in New York City. I'm essentially coming into a department chair mode in August of this year. And one of the challenges we have, like all universities, is coming up with an AI policy for students to use in their education. Now, this is not a seminar on that. I'm not going to say much about it, but I will note that what I allow the students to do is to use AI to, for instance, when they write papers in my class, use AI to conduct research, but then they have to cite the source and the AI system they used for the source, just like you would have in an old-fashioned, source. But they cannot use AI to write their papers. That needs to be independent thought. And that is the role of many American Bar Association law schools that adopt the same thing. And in fact, I just read the other day that the University of California, Berkeley Law School is one of the nation's biggest and most famous law schools, is now sharply restricting the use of AI in all of their classes, because the line between what humans are writing and what AI is writing is becoming fuzzier and fuzzier. And it's harder for faculty to tell if the students are writing their own papers, or if they're starting to outsource their knowledge to a computer. So these are all part of the big picture. I think an overall theme, what we got here in international research collaboration in the age of AI, is that AI is a really great tool to use. AI should not, however, be used as a substitute for human oversight or final decision-making. People need to be the final arbiters of whatever AI creates. And I hope that is a thought that one of the thoughts you take away from this session today. Next slide, please. Okay, this slide was, hello?
I think now.
Marjo, are you on?
I'm on. I'm really sorry for all the technical troubles, but it seems that this way you can hear me. It's not the best setup, but I'm happy to be able to participate and join you.
Well, I'm glad you made it on. Can you introduce yourself to the group? And then I'll let you take over to start this slide on trust in a complex landscape.
Yeah, thank you so much for Marjo for not giving up. I think resilience is one of the things we have all who are working research area as well. Okay, thank you. Marjo, let me know if I am on the correct slide right now.
Yes, this is, and I managed to step in just on time. And yeah, this is the perfect example that all the technical advancements we do, and then we are in the situation that it's not working. But we don't give up, we continue. And this is basically what research managers we do. We need to navigate in the complex landscape. And AI, as said, it's a tool. It gives us lots of new opportunities, productivity, hopefully efficiency, but still, what do we need? We need us humans to translate, even if, yes, it becomes easier to communicate because of AI and all the tools that we have. But still, we need to translate, the research managers translate also cultures, different rules in different institutions, and expectations that we as humans have, because research collaboration, it's collaboration between humans, researchers, institutions. And we need to communicate efficiently, but also we need to listen. And in my opinion, AI cannot replace that. And this is often because from the background I'm coming from, we are really in interface with researchers and institutions and different services in those institutions. And often we need to navigate in those areas that different countries, different institutions have different rules. And still we need to be able to find the solutions. We need to maybe find a solution to a conflict. And this is where the human intelligence is needed, that cannot be replaced by the AI. Then trust. We need trust to work together. And AI, even if it's a great thing, a tool, the risk maybe is that we might lose some nuances. And if we get too used to AI, to the tools, we might lose something, because how to trust is built. It's built by showing up. It's built by being there for others. It's built by listening to others. And this is also the role for me. The research managers, the research or project managers are bringing in. And then, yes, the complication might be that the AI, all the rules, all the laws that we are bringing in are complicating for one part, our job as research managers, or the ones who are supposed to facilitate the research. And we discussed with James about it, that even it's not so clear all the legislation that is changing and the tools and how we are supposed to navigate in the changing environment. And still, our job is to help all our stakeholders, all the researchers, institutions, countries to work together. James, do you want to add something?
Yes, thank you, Marjo. There's a couple things on the slide when Marjo and I were designing this session. There's a couple words here that I think are central. One is trust. And I know from my career that once you lose trust from the faculty, it takes a long time to rebuild trust. And I've taken over grant offices where we had faculty that were still upset 10 years later that the grants office had dropped, let's say, an application or did something wrong that caused them to lose money. And faculty, at least I'll say in America, maybe it's true in other parts of the world, but I would say that some faculty here have very long memories when it comes to a central grants office making mistakes or screwing something up. And so once you've lost trust, it takes a long time to rebuild trust, which would, I guess, lead to the other word that I was thinking about here, which is the need to communicate effectively. As I would say to my staff in universities at the department or the institutional level, or as I say to my students in the program, it's not how you say it, let me rephrase it this way. Your communication must be technically correct, but also you need to say it in a way that will be received positively by the faculty. That's what I would call the nuance of communication. And so, once again, in my experience here in the United States, I can't tell you how many times I've seen a small problem become a big problem because a staff member did not appropriately respond to a faculty member. And I know there were many cases that small problems would go to the vice president for research of my institution, triggered by, a staff member not returning phone calls, choosing to use email instead of a phone call, or using email and not having appropriate tone and language in the email that makes problems bigger than they really need to be. And although, the email has been around since roughly 1995, 96, even recently when I was managing grants offices in the last 10 years, we still brought in consultants to teach university staff and faculty how to write proper emails, even at this late date. And so, when we talk about the trust of research administrators, it does come down to those human elements, Marjo, that we may think is common sense, but is not. And sometimes everybody needs a refresher in these areas because I like to build trust from day one. And while I accept rebuilding trust as part of my job description at any university I worked at, public or private, big or small, it's still something that needs to be hammered home. And of course, once you get into the international realm, you have greater issues with cultural differences and language differences and time differences. And that actually requires you to be more understanding than you would maybe if you were solely in a domestic situation of two British universities or two American universities. And so that, this is where what I would hate to see is people starting to say, well, this is not my responsibility because AI created it. So you get the AI, I don't want to call it an AI defense, but I can easily see how some people would say, well, I didn't write that response to the faculty member. I used Copilot or Chat GPT to write the response and send it to the faculty member. That I can't accept that. Certainly in the legal world, as an aside, law is a regulated profession, which means that our licenses are regulated by a state body. For me, it's a state Supreme Court or the U.S. Supreme Court. And research administrators and managers here or in Europe are not regulated professions. So they're not subject to discipline or to have their licenses suspended or withdrawn like you do for lawyers or doctors or accountants or engineers. So even for those of us that work in higher ed that are lawyers and do not even work in a legal capacity for the university, we're still subject to the legal rules of our profession, which means that I have to be even more cognizant of impropriety and appearances of impropriety. And all that means to say is that it should give all of us pause in how we are communicating to each other and how we can look at each opportunity to build more trust. So I think that's what I have on this slide, Marjo.
Yes, and maybe I can still add a little bit to
Okay.
that, because when we are talking about writing papers or maybe proposals, I think that the AI is really useful tool helping us so whether to be more creative and we maybe all have heard that the number of applications for different, for example, European calls have exploded. And one question is if it's because or thanks to AI, I don't know which way we should see it, but I still do believe that AI cannot replace human mind. And personally, because I have seen proposals that have most likely been written by AI for a big part, and then I need to say that now you need to write it in your words or with your way, because I don't want to read a machine language. And I think that it's somewhere there as well, the trust and this that we are facing new things that we have not faced necessarily before, and yes, we can use AI to facilitate our jobs. But my point of view is really that it's a new way of working that we need to find out, and maybe in our collaborations as well. Yes, we have the legislation, we have the institutional rules, etc. But maybe we need to as well discuss together what are our rules in all that. What is our transparency? For example, do we need to tell to which extent we are using AI?
Should we move on to the next slide?
Yes.
Okay.
So I guess the still what we want to share, what we want to express is that we are staying positive in this in all of this, and I don't see at all that research managers, project managers would disappear. But our competencies, well, we need to have new competencies to be able to respond to the changing environment, the needs that come with that. And yes, most likely we need to be more AI literate. That's something that when we have started, maybe our profession, we didn't think that one day we would have to know. And yes, it's a challenge because, for example, when we see all the different information and the translation of different cultures and languages and funding rules, and then we still add the AI in there. But what I see that what is becoming more important and more appreciated is the human interactions, the what we can bring in. And yes, it most likely will change the work environment, the way we will work together. But I think our point of view is still very positive in this changing future landscape. I let you continue, Trent.
Well, I was just going to say, I agree with Marjo. I mean, there is nothing good in being negative. There are challenges with AI that, we in our different parts of the planet are dealing with. But I know we can remain positive with that. I know that the professional organizations like Ancura and SRA here in North America and IRMA and the country-specific RMA organizations in Europe are doing a lot to continue to build research management and administration as a profession. I know in my role with CUNY, with our master's program, we are growing that. And one of my favorite sayings to the students in our program is that I want you to become thought leaders. I don't want you to become bureaucrats. I consider bureaucrat to be not a compliment because it's often used in a negative connotation. And I know from my interactions with all my European colleagues that bureaucrat over there is not really a compliment either. And so, since my responsibility, after all these years in the field is really preparing the next generation or two for prosperous careers, it's very important that people remain flexible and continue to learn. All of these sessions, like what Anna puts on through AIRON, what the associations do, what country-specific organizations do, that's all part of lifelong learning, meaning whether you've been in research management and administration for 2 years, 20 years, or 30 years, we're always learning. And I'm still learning all the time too. But that's why I liked going into research administration 30 years ago after practicing law. I liked the environment. I liked the pursuit of knowledge. I liked that it kept me young in perspective and focus. And certainly part of what I like best about, working in the international realm is the excitement I get from working with my colleagues that are different than me. I mean, they talk different, they have different perspectives, they've grown up differently. We may not always agree on certain things, but I think as research managers, most of us do tend to have very consistent points of view. And like the slide says, there's a need for us, meaning research managers and administrators, to be facilitators and mediators. Once again, and maybe part of it's because I grew up initially in the pre-award roles, but I've always had the perspective of growing the pie, increasing the research volume. I'll never forget when I took my first job after practicing law in research administration, my ORSP director pulled me aside once, and I was doing a lot of grant writing. And while I was a very good writer, I was a very good writer as a lawyer, not as a research manager. And he came to me one day with a piece of paper and he says, "Do you realize that this sentence you wrote has 215 words in it?" And I went, "Oh my God, that's like a paragraph, a one sentence paragraph." He goes, "You have to break down your thoughts and you have to learn how to write like a human being." I'm like, "Okay, thanks, boss, for telling me that. I understand lawyers are not human beings." But, then once again, that goes back to communication. And, and of course, I've long adopted the mindset that we should find reasons to say yes, not reasons to say no. And I suppose the last thought I want to leave here on this slide before we get into Q&A is there's a YouTube link at the bottom of this from a band named Timbuk 3. If you've never heard of the song, "The Future's So Bright, I Gotta Wear Shades," check it out. It probably shows my age a little bit, but it basically has the thought that, yes, the future is bright, but there are always concerns with the future too. Maybe the future isn't so bright all the time, but in a sarcastic way, despite the challenges that may come to us in the future may be very bright. And I think that song is really an encapsulation of both the possibilities and the challenges of AI. And that's my final thought for the session today on what the future is. And as everybody on this presentation knows, everything's going to change every 2 to 4 months. 6 months from now, there could be breakthroughs that will challenge us even further. So I think we are ready now, Anna, to go into Q&A. The last slide here has the email addresses for Marjo and I. And I am certainly, after this session, you can reach me at either email I have or Marjo at her address in France. Is there anything, Marjo, you want to add before we go to Q&A?
I will want to thank you, all of you, for participating, and James sharing all your knowledge that is very extensive, and Anna for organizing. But yes, we can go for the questions.
Thank you so much. I think everyone asking can unmute and turn on their cameras as well. There's no questions in a chat, but very interesting here in the chat. I have seen very interesting comment from Connor. Connor, I'm just wondering if you have created any solution for finding partners. Maybe if it's possible, if maybe you can unmute yourself and let us know the full story. Not quite sure.
He may be shy.
Okay, no. No, it takes time, I think.
You surprised me. You surprised me. Yeah, I mean, here in Edinburgh, we've actually got, we've developed our own large language model. So that's sort of the key thing that we've done here in terms of, trying to ensure some control and best practice in using AI. So it's a locally hosted language model, which is complies with our research security sort of obligations, and also our sustainability rules, because it's covered by our environmental policies and things. So that's a tool which, and it has no retention in terms of what's uploaded to it. So that's a key thing. So it's freely available to all staff and students, and it's being developed. So we're really encouraged not to, obviously, to use that rather than using other systems. So we've used that, as I say, to produce, just not in a structured way, just in terms of using it for partner finding in particular around EU calls, and so that's our main thing at the moment.
Connor, I saw your comments here, and the issue of resource differentiation between low and middle income and upper income countries is certainly significant. I was also going to say, and it was in one of our slides, that resources are different among universities here in the United States. I know that, bachelor's and master's level universities that do smaller amounts of research still need these resources, and they don't have the money of a Harvard or a Caltech, or Michigan or whatever. And so there are really resource concerns within the university higher community here in the United States. And so I think that's a common problem across different, countries and different universities, and differences between, an IBM of the world and a small SME.
No, that's true. That's true. But I suppose it's just around particularly where things have become suddenly available, that you can access ChatGPT on in one of the sort of a very sort of small university in some rural area of sub-Saharan Africa, and but using that is going to present a lot of risks if it's done in terms of research collaboration, because there's a lot at stake in terms of research security and IP and privacy. So it's suddenly very available, but suddenly has huge risks if it's in partnership with areas where there's a lot of legal things which we need to comply with, and obviously the geopolitical concerns. Who are our partners?
And by follow-up, here in the United States, where there is a greater push by the federal government for research security training, and the executive orders that have come down. In fact, NSF has a secure program that I've managed to get involved with as a faculty member. And, on the other hand, we're trying to reduce administrative burden in our, institutions. But as I've seen over my career, even the best intentions to reduce administrative burden results in additional burden. And so now we got, additional burden in research security. You have additional, in data protection and privacy also. And so I can recall faculty complaining in 1995 about the conflict of interest requirement documents required for U.S. government grants. That document was 1 page long in 1995. And the faculty said that was too long. And now people are like, boy, I wish we could go back to 1995 and that 1 pager, because now it's much more than that. So it's one of those things to be careful what you wish for, I guess.
Yep. Thanks. No, very, very, very interesting to hear perspectives on it. Thanks.
Thank you so much. one more question we can take. I think the presentation was really, really good and very timeless. I really appreciate Jim mentioning it, that, you know, we're really living in the times where everything is changing so quickly. And always we come back to the realization that it doesn't matter what it's going to change. We as people still carry a lot of responsibilities, and we are the ones, you know, to deal with the changes and processing this as soon as possible and taking responsibility for whatever we are doing. Is there any one last question? Serena, you have a camera on. I was wondering if this is a sign for asking last important question before we finish for today.
Not really. I just wanted to show up that I was still here because I felt that there was not a lot of camera on, and we were all here despite of the late Friday afternoon. Hi from the future.
Yeah, hi for the future. Yeah, thank you. I have a you have a question or not? Wasn't a question. Okay, so I have a final question then to both of you. Oh, sorry. I mean, you are back. Okay.
Sorry. It's I think we don't have the time for this question. My question was, I wrote it in the chat. Do you have any example for using AI in audit reporting? But just very briefly, just yeah.
I was going to say there's been some posts on LinkedIn having to do with audit reports and using AI. I don't have, for instance, a Word document or anything that I can send you separately from this presentation, but I know that as AI has developed past the pre-award phase into the post-award, including grant closeout and audits, that more attention is being paid to audit reporting now than it was, let's say, a year ago. Marjo, is there anything you could add?
Not really any concrete example, but this is, of course, this is all that what is changing so fast, because maybe AI, at least from my point of view, is entering a bit later in the post-award. And in my work, this is, of course, something that we are trying to explore, in which way we could use it to make it easier, to kind of, because the workload is heavy on the reporting and auditing, but unfortunately I don't have any solution to propose today. It's those things that I think, and Anna, maybe you can note for one session, because that would be really interesting point of view, how the AI could be used in these kind of tasks.
You know, Dyer, I was gonna follow up. Are you part of the research administrators listserv?
Excuse me, if I'm part of who?
The research administrators listserv, RESADM-L, is a global.
No, not yet. Yeah.
Oh, you should. Well, everybody here should join it if you're not part of it.
Great. Yes.
I'm going to add it right here in the chat. This is what I've just posted is a global research administrator listserv. There's 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 members on it. And I've used it for a variety of purposes over the years, where I do surveys on staff size, how many people are dedicated to pre-award or post-award. And I think your question to the, once you join, you know, and you can set it to a digest or you can receive messages daily. That is something where you could actually post a question in the res admin listserv and say, hey, does anybody have any examples of using AI for audit reporting? I'm sure you're going to get responses. From what I'm seeing on social media, AI for audit reporting is relatively new, probably in the last half year, maybe year at the most, because a lot, for instance, like in Europe with IRMA, a lot of the early professional development was on the pre-award side. And now that the systems people are becoming more acclimated to them, it's only natural you're getting to the back end of the research process with auditing. So you know, if you go online, it's easy instructions. HRI out of the United States manages it. That's the Health Research Institute. And you know, I've been a member since 1995, so you can actually search by topic in the Res Admin archives, and it'll give you a lot of stuff. And I'm kind of embarrassed to see what I wrote in 1995. Not that it was wrong, but I sounded so young, and you know, that's just a function of life. But join that, and in fact, if anybody on this call is not getting res admin, you know, at least oh, Matt Townsend remembers me. Well, thank you. That is funny. But everybody should join, at least get the digest twice a week if you don't want to be bothered with every daily post. So
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing, Jim. Thank you so much for the last question, Daya, as well. Marjo, thank you so much for, you know, joining the session and sharing your insights. It was a lot of things to learn. And with this, and thank you for everyone for attending, of course. And with this,
I will slightly interject to send a shout out to Declan from Ireland, who is on this call too. He's one of my IRMA friends.
Okay. Yeah, hi to the clan then. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Have a great rest of the day and a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Marjo.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a good weekend.
You too.